When you attach your collar to your shirt, you are attaching an inside curve to an outside curve, very much like the princess seam sample that you did, only it's a little bit slighter curve. If you look at that curved edge of your collar band, it's an outside curve, your neckline is an inside curve. So you are going to attach the collar band to your shirt, aligning center back, aligning your notches, lining up the front. The only way this will work, remember, is if you have clipped your inside curve first. And so clear back at the very beginning, first step, I stay stitched my neckline, so it's all stay stitched. And now I have clipped that neckline edge so that my neck can actually move and open up and move from an inside curve to a slight outside curve as I need to in order to pin it. Okay. I'm going to set my collar down. It will be easier to sew this if you were looking at your shirt. So if you'll put your collar down on your surface, and then you'll pin your shirt to the top of it, match center back. I have a little clip here in my collar for center back. Because my neckline is so clipped, I also stuck a pin in the clip that was center back so that I would know which clip was actually my center back and not just a clip to align the seams so that I can sew them. So I match center back up. Okay. I match my notch up. Now, if you look at the neck, there's a great big notch here. It's because this pattern actually is multi-sized for the collar band, and I just cut out all the different sizes as opposed to just the size that I need. You will get a much more accurate look if you truly just cut your notch. So I'm going to take time out, pull out the pattern, and actually cut the notch so that it matches up and you can see it. Okay, so I've gone back and cut just the notch from the collar band that I am using for this particular size. Match my notch. Match my notch. And the front of the shirt with that point. Now, the one thing that is going to be slightly different when we do our collar band than when we did our shirt, the cuff of the shirt. Remember, as we attached that cuff, we sewed from the cuff side so that we could see that exact point and hit it. You can still do that if you will take the time to put several pins in. A lot of times when we clip something, we tell you to sew from the side that was clipped, because when you pull those clips, if you look at this, when I pull that clip, it tends to flip. And I don't want to catch that flipped edge in my seam. So if we sew it looking at that, we can see that and stop it from happening. I want to know where that spot is on the back, so I'm going to put enough pins in this that I can still sew it, or I have the choice now that I can sew it from the shirt side, looking at the clip edges, because that's the side that's most likely to cause me trouble or to get a tuck, or I can try sewing it from the inside and actually hit that point. And remember, that point needs to be just like it was before, that thumbnail width just past the edge of the front there. So be sure you've got that, just that little thumbnail width. So I'll get this neckline all pinned in place, and then we will be ready to stitch it. If you look, you can see that these clips have opened up. The only way this collar will go on without tucks, without being very frustrating, is to have clipped that neckline first so the clips can open up and that inside curve again can change shape and match the outside curve of the collar band. So when it's smooth and lays there, then you're ready to sew it. Okay. Again, just like the cuff, you want to be sure when you sew it that you don't catch that seam. You want it to be out of the way, and you want to start exactly in that spot. So if you were going to sew from the inside or from the shirt side, it will make your life easier to go ahead from this back side here. I'm actually just going to stick a pin from that back side out. Okay, and now I know exactly where I have to drop my needle to start with. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. I'm going to find that exact spot that I ended. I'm going to drop a pin in it and come out to the outside so that I can see it. So I know I have to stop exactly at that spot. I need to stop and start where those two pins came through if I want to be able to sew from this shirt side, which is actually my easier side to sew from because my collar band will lay flat. It's my shirt that's going to tend to bunch. I don't want to get a tuck in my shirt. So if I mark those ends, I can still sew right to them. So now we're going to go to the sewing machine and sew. Okay, so we're at the sewing machine. I want to drop my needle exactly where that pin is. And so I am going to look underneath my foot and literally drop that needle into place and then slide that pin out so that I'm exactly in that hole, and then drop my foot down. Again, this is choosing to sew from the shirt side. And it's a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Take some stitches, back stitch. And then I'm going to sew across this. And I don't want to catch that collar band facing. I only want to catch just the collar band. And sew it at 5/8 of an inch. And even as I'm sewing this, you can see those clips opening up as I lay that shirt and that inside neckline edge, that inside curve becoming an outside curve. Periodically look up underneath, make sure the collar band is out of the way, or the collar band facing is out of the way, and your collar band is laying flat. And then just continue sewing collar bands to your shirt. Remember, when you sew an inside curve to an outside curve, the only place those seams are the same length and align and match up is right at 5/8. And so you will have rippling and bubbling going on out beyond 5/8, and you may have some stretching coming on between those clips inside 5/8. But you can just take your finger and run it right along where you're going to be sewing and make sure that it lays smooth at that point, and that will help to reduce the chance of you getting tucks as you are sewing. You just want to sew with a regulation stitch. Along the entire length of that collar band. Again, take the pins out as you get to them. Don't sew over your pins. The machine quite often makes kind of a funny stitch there. It's not quite straight, and you run the risk of actually hitting a pin. So take the pins out as you get there. And keep checking up underneath, make sure that that collar band stays out of the way. It's pulled out of the way, that you're not catching it. When you get to this other side with your needle down, it may help you actually to lift your presser foot and kind of pull this around so that your seam can extend out and you can see that point. Remember that pin that I stuck in, and I know I have to sew right to that point. And then put the presser foot back down again and sew to exactly to that point. So as I get here, I'm actually going to hand wheel so I can watch the needle go in exactly where that pin is. Pop my pin out, hit my reverse button so that I go exactly to that point, and then cut your thread off. Perfect. All right, so after you've sewn it, then you will check along that seam, make sure that you don't have any tucks in your shirt. You can do that by just applying a teeny bit of pressure along that seam line. Just pull a little bit, look at your shirt, look at your collar band, make sure you do not have any tucks along that edge. You are also going to look and make sure that your collar band comes straight up from the button band on the shirt, making sure that it comes straight up from that button band edge and from the button edge. And you'll pull that, line it up, and make sure that it comes out straight, that you don't have an extension sticking out here. If it does, if your collar band extends out or stops too short and you have a tuck, you need to fix that before you go on.